Good morning, children. And again, we are in front of each other. And today, in this video, I am going to give the detailed explanation of the poem, The Tale of Melon City by Vikram Seth. Children, this poem has been taken from mappings, which was published in 1981 and is included in the collected poems by Vikram Seth. The king in this poem is just and placid. Does he carry his notion of justice a bit too far? Children, just means fair and lawful, and placid means mild and gentle. Notion means belief, what you believe. So, the king in this poem is very just, calm, quiet, fair, lawful. But doesn't he carry this belief in a different manner in this poem? That we will study. Let's begin. After Idris Sa. In the city of which I sing, there was a just and placid king. The king proclaimed an arch should be constructed that triumphantly would span the major thoroughfare to edify spectators there. The workmen went and built the thing. They did so, since he was the king. The king rode down the thoroughfare to edify spectators there. Children, the poet says that the city of which I sing means the city of which the poet is talking about, there was a very just and placid king. One day king proclaimed means gave a royal order that an arch must be constructed. Arch actually means a semicircular structure, and it is used to commemorate the victory of any king. So, the king said that an arch should be constructed that triumphantly means victoriously, would span the major thoroughfare and where it would get constructed on the general road. Thoroughfare means general road. And to edify spectators there. Edify means to morally boost up the spectators. The workmen went and built the thing. They did so, since he was the king. So workmen started their work and built the thing, and as it was a royal order, they did so. After the arch got constructed, the king rode down the general road to inspect that thing and to morally boost up the spectators there. Edify means to morally boost up. Under the arch, he lost his crown. The arch was built too low. A frown appeared upon his placid face. The king said, "This is a disgrace. The chief of builders will be hanged." The rope and gallows were arranged. The chief of builders was led out. He passed the king. He gave a shout. "O king, it was the workmen's fault." "Oh," said the king, and called a halt. So what happened, children? Under the arch, when the king was passing by, king's crown struck the arch as the arch was built too low, and the crown fell down. A frown means a kind of displeasure, anger, and it is expressed by knitting of eyebrows. So that frown came on king's face, and definitely when a King becomes angry, he gives punishment. So the frown appeared upon his placid face. The calm and quiet face of the king was now taken over by anger. The king said, "That's a disgrace." Disgrace means a shameful thing. And he ordered that the chief of builders will be hanged. The rope and gallows were arranged. Gallows means structure on which criminals are hanged. And rope, you know very well. So the chief of builders was brought. And as he passed in front of the king, he shouted, "O king, it's not my fault, it's the workmen's fault." And the king said, "Halt." Halt means stop. To the proceedings, being just and placid now, he said, "I must have all the workmen hanged instead." The workmen looked surprised and said, "O king, you do not realize the bricks were made of wrong size." So now king children stopped the hanging of the builder. And as the builder said, "Sir, I have not constructed the art. It was the workmen who made the thing. So it's not my fault." And then the king called the workmen for hanging. Now the workmen looked surprised and they wanted to find an excuse. And suddenly they said, "O king, you do not realize the bricks were made of a wrong size. Summon the masons," said the king. The masons stood there, quivering. So, the workmen took the fault from their head to the bricks. They said, "Bricks were not of the equal sizes, so it's not our fault." Now the king said, "Summon the masons." So, mason is a person who constructs the things. So, mason was now in front of the king for hanging. And he stood there quivering. Quivering means trembling, shivering. He gave his excuse. It was the architect, they said. The architect was summoned. "Well, architect," said His Majesty, "I do ordain that you shall be hanged." So masons again played tricky. They said, "Sir, it's not fault. It was the architect who gave us the wrong design." Now as architect was in front of the king for the hanging. Said the architect, "O king, you have forgotten one small thing. You made certain amendments to the plans when I showed them to you." The king heard this. The king saw it. In fact, he nearly lost his head. Now, architect played a nice game and he said, "King, are you not forgetting one small thing? That when I showed the plan to you, you made amendments. Amendments means, children, changes for the betterment. Or you can say improvements, corrections. So, the king heard this and now his face turned red because he lost his head. He became angry and he was unable to decide. He could not remain calm and sensible as he used to be all the time because now his neck was to be hanged. But as he was just and placid king, see, in this situation also he is just and placid. He said, "This is a tricky thing. I need some counsel. Bring to me the wisest man in the country." The wisest man was brought. First of all, found. Nay, carried to the court, carried to the royal court. Counsel here means children, advice. So king said, I need some advice. Bring me the wisest man of the country. So a wisest man was presented in front of the king, and he could not walk. He was carried to the royal court. And why he was carried to the royal court? Because he could not walk and could not see, so old, and therefore wise was he. What a beautiful decision by the counselors. That as he could not walk, as he could not see, therefore he was considered wise. And he was old too. And but in a quavering voice he said, the culprit must be punished. So the old man said in a very trembling voice that the culprit means the person who has committed the crime, must be hanged. And what judgment he did give? That is, truly the arch it was that banged the crown off, and it must be hanged. So the wise man said that actually it's a mistake of not the king, but the arch who touched upon the king's crown, so it must be hanged. To the scaffold the arch was led, when suddenly a counselor said, how can we hang so shamefully? What touched your head, your majesty? True, mused the king. By now the crowd, restless, was muttering aloud. Suddenly one counselor means minister, said that, how can we hang something which has touched your head? Because after touching your head, it has become pure. Actually, it happened when arch was taken to the scaffold. Scaffold means the platform for hanging. So when the king heard this, he said, true, yes. King could not give an explanation. And by now the crowd was shouting. It became restless because they wanted hanging. So the king perceived their mood and trembled and said to all who were assembled, let us postpone consideration of finer points like guilt. The nation wants a hanging. Hanged must be someone, and that immediately. So now king little bit turned tricky and said that, okay, don't force on one thing. Let's forget about the crime, about the mistake. Actually, the country wants that someone should be hanged, and someone would be hanged. So the noose was set a little bit high. Noose actually means a sliping circle of rope inside which the neck is placed. So it was set somewhat high, and each man was measured by and by. Means each man was taken there, the rope, and measured. But only one man was so tall, he fitted. One man, that was all. He was the king, his majesty was therefore hanged by royal decree. So at last, only one man fitted the noose, and it was the king itself. So the king was hanged by royal decree. Decree means order. Thank goodness we found someone, said the ministers. For if instead we had not, the unruly town might have well turned against the crown. The ministers were now very thankful to themselves that at least they found someone for hanging. Otherwise, the crowd would have turned unruly, uncontrolled. They might have revolted against the king. Now, children, the most funny lines in this poem, according to me. Listen. Long live the king, the minister said. Long live the king. The king is dead. Still, in both the conditions, long live the king. These were the ministers or the counselors who behaved like this. They pondered the dilemma. Then, being practical minded men, sent out the heralds to proclaim, in his former majesty's name, the next to pass the city gate will choose the ruler of our state. As is our custom, this will be enforced with due ceremony. A man passed by the city gate, an idiot. The guards cried, "Wait." So what happened? Heralds were sent. Heralds means messengers were sent to proclaim, to means give royal order on the name of the king. And what was it? The next person who will pass the city gate will choose the king of our state. State means country here. Actually, it was their custom, and which was it was enforced with due ceremony. So a man passed the city gate, and who was he? An idiot, a mad person. So the guards cried, "Wait," and asked him, "Who is the king? Decide." "Oh, Melon," the idiot replied. So the idiot said, "A melon to be the king." Actually, this was his standard answer to all the questions. He liked melons. So the idiot liked melons, and to every question he used to give the answer melon. Even if you asked him, "What's your name?" he would have said melon. "Where do you live?" Melon. Actually, because he liked melons. But as he was an idiot, he could not think anything else. So now, when the idiot said melon, so the counselors said, "You are now our king." The ministers said, "Crowning a melon," and then they led or carried the melon to the throne and reverently set it down. So a melon was chosen and carried to the royal throne, and reverently, children, very respectfully, it was asked to sit down, and it was made the king of the country. This happened years and years ago. When now you ask the people, "So, your king appears to be a melon. How did this happen?" They say, "Melon." Well, on account of customary choice, if his majesty rejoice. So, children, this incident happens many years back, and when you now ask the people of that state, "How come your king is a melon? How did this happen?" So they say that it is our customary practice, means this is our custom, that in this way only our king would be selected. And if his majesty, if the king is happy being a melon, we are okay with it. In being a melon, that's okay with us. For who are we to say what he should be, as long as he leaves us in peace and liberty? So the citizens were happy. Why? They said that we are living in peace, we are living in freedom. So why should we interfere? If our king wants to live life like a melon. The principles of laissez-faire seem to be well established there. Laissez-faire means, children, policy of allowing private business to develop without government control. It means no government control is there on the activities which take place in that area. They are free to do, or you can say free trade. In two words, free trade. So as you can see in that city, no king was there, no control was there. Everybody was doing whatever he liked. So they were free to do anything. So the principle of laissez-faire was established there. And they enjoyed being the citizens of that place whose king was nice, calm, and placid. I hope, children, you might have enjoyed this humorous and funny poem. And I hope you would get benefited with it. The poetic lines which are very fine and make you laugh, and you would understand the love for poetry, that what is the effect, what sublimity the poem creates. So children, that's all in this video for today. Until my next video, thank you and goodbye.